Hey guys, I'm Emily Hamilton, and I decided to do my interview at the Memphis Union Mission in Memphis, Tennessee. To start off, the person that I did my interview for was Miss Cheryl Followell. And so, just to start off the conversation, I just asked her what the mission statement was. And she said that we minister to physical, spiritual, and emotional needs of men, women, and families who are homeless, addicted, or in crisis. And throughout the interview, I was really able to tell just how passionate she was about what she was doing. She acts as technically a social worker, but she is also on the board of directors for the Memphis Union Mission. So to start off, I just asked her some basic questions about the Memphis Union Mission and what they did and what she did personally. So I asked her about how many people in Memphis she believes to be homeless. She said that there's probably about 2,000 people each time that are homeless. So just 2,000 people all at once, just day to day. I asked her if it was tied to any particular denomination because it's obviously Christian based, but she stated that it wasn't a specific denomination, and in fact she encouraged those that actually attended the mission to branch out and go to different churches and just try to get involved with as many spiritual connections that they could. And so I also asked her if it was strictly a local organization, and she said that it was, because I know that there's a bunch of union missions just anywhere that you go. She said that it's autonomous and governed by a local board of directors. She said that all of the funds stay within Memphis and Shelby County. She also stated, whenever I asked her about how many people were currently working at the mission, she said that there's about 35 people that are working there each time. To figure out where they got the funding from, I just decided to ask her who the main people were that would donate them money, and just how they kind of connected that in order to receive the funds that they needed to keep the mission running. She said that it's strictly just based off donations, and she also mentioned that most of the donations are just given by individuals. So the individuals that decide to donate, they make up 80% of the total funding for the Memphis Union Mission, and the other 20% would just come from local churches and organizations, and just the bigger branches that would probably support them would give them the money. I asked her if the Union Mission charged for its services, just because the more I talked to her, the more I learned just how many services they did provide. And so it just kind of got me wondering and trying to figure out how all the funding would come into play with what all they do. And she said most of the services are free. Most of them would just include emergency needs such as housing and food and shelter, and just anything that they may need potentially. And so she stated that each individual can stay a maximum of 4 nights per month, but that would just be for free. And so if the individual decides that they want to stay longer, then it would be $6 per night after that. But the $6 would not only provide them with breakfast the next day, but it would provide them with dinner that night and a place to stay and any hygiene items that they would need. So anytime after the 4 days, they would just be limited to the $6 a night, which doesn't really seem like that much to us. But obviously, if you're in that state where you can't really afford to live, then it can be much more difficult in order for them to receive the $6. But during the winter, especially whenever it's below freezing, there's no limit on how long they can stay. Just because if the weather is below freezing outside, they can stay however long they want until it decides to warm back up a little bit. But this would obviously be kind of hard to do whenever it's really hot in the summer, and they don't really provide the same thing where you can just stay if the heat index would be above 100 or some insane amount. So I also found that very interesting. But they said, or I asked her if they provided work for the individuals that were staying there. And she said that they provide work referrals for those who are willing to work, and they honor vouchers for several area churches and ministries. They allow guests to stay for free if they're willing to help around the mission. So this would just include them picking stuff up and cleaning and maybe helping with the cooking, But if they decide that they want to do this, then they can stay however long they want to, and they wouldn't have to pay the $6 after the 4 nights. So the main reason why she stated that they did this is to where it can help people realize that if they help other people, then they can also benefit in advance. So I thought that that was really cool too, just because a lot of people think that they wouldn't really have any other opportunities and that they would just be forced to have to continue to be homeless if they didn't have the $6 to live per night. But if they're willing to help out, then they can just stay however long they want to for free, and they're still provided with the breakfast, the dinner, and the stay. I asked her what % of the donations go towards administrative expenses. And she said that 70% of all of the funds that are received go towards administrative expenses, and then the other 25% would go towards the administrative and fundraising expenses. Their audited financial statements do not include the value of gifts in kind or the value of volunteer labor, which a lot of organizations try to incorporate that into their percentages, but the Memphis Union Mission tried to make a point that they did not. I also asked her if they conduct telemarketing campaigns, and she said not only do they not do that just over the phone and whatnot, but they also don't conduct any door-to-door services. I asked her if they were connected with a United Way agency, and she said that they aren't, but we can still give money to the Memphis Union Mission through the United Way's Donor's Choice Program. So throughout this experience, I was able to talk with Miss Cheryl and just see how passionate she was about what she was doing and how she was able to pour into others while they were also pouring into her. Just because, like, obviously her job can get very depressing just by being around homeless people all the time, and it can just become very draining, it seemed like. But she was able to show me the really positive aspects and show me like just how hard each member of the board of directors worked to try to encourage others to do better and just to better themselves and to want to be better than they were the day before. So this was a really encouraging experience for me because it made me be able to connect the stuff that we've learned in class to the stuff that Miss Cheryl taught me.